Take two, intro, episode one. Welcome to Brown Noise
A podcast where two best friends from Bangalore find their voice again.
and talk about all the things we were told not to say out loud.
From identity to mental health, being a woman, being desi, and being far away from home.
This
This
is
is Brown Noise.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back, even though this is our first episode. I'm your host, Nidhi,
And I'm Aditi, and we're best friends.
and we're best friends, and we are finally doing this together.
We're being honest here.
Yeah,
This is a very safe space, and that's what we are hoping that it will be for everyone who's listening.
exactly. And like we said in our intro, we want to talk, we want to bring topics of conversation that may be slightly taboo. People don't talk about it as much, considering maybe you're also from a brown household or a woman or anybody that can just relate to the general sorrows of life. And we just want to bring a voice to it and also just having fun. So since this is the first time our audience is listening to us, maybe some people don't know us, maybe we should quickly introduce ourselves and also how we know each other, who we are to
Yeah,
each other.
yeah. We met on the street. Oh,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
actually remember the exact moment where we met.
Oh,
It was,
really?
yeah, it was like first day of engineering school, and we were getting a tour of the whole campus, and we were going to one of the labs, and we are walking up the staircase, and we ended up walking like right next to each other, and then we started speaking to each other, and that was like the first day, like first day, first orientation, like first conversation with someone from my class.
Hmm.
And yeah, and we've been so close ever since then. We've had some, ups and
Yeah.
downs, but it hasn't really been a down. I feel like everything just brought us like way
No,
closer.
it was like a up and a neutral and then an up and a neutral. So no real down.
Yeah, it's just a heartbeat.
That's yeah, seriously, from being teenagers to now being in our late 20s, it's been quite a journey. Maybe another question that I have for you. I mean, we already discussed this, but maybe so everyone else also knows, what drew you to the idea of a podcast, or what made you agree to the idea of putting out a podcast, given that there are so many podcast bros out there now? What was your motivation behind it?
Honestly, like I have always enjoyed my conversations with you so much, and I have moments where I like remember them and then I laugh or I
Mm-hmm.
think about it, gets me thinking, or it starts
Yeah.
off as something and then I'm just like, oh, whoa, it just opened a whole portal in my head, like so I just want people
Yeah.
as well to like experience that because I think it's important to share what brings you joy to the world because
Mm-hmm.
people always want to keep the joy that they feel to themselves or like we shouldn't
Yeah.
let that happen. We should be in a place where we're sharing so much love out there and because we share love for each other, I think that like resonates
Mm-hmm.
to everyone who's listening to and they can like feel
Yeah.
the energy hopefully and like feed off of it. We've both gone through so much as well. Like as people, we've grown
Yeah.
up, we've had so many different kinds of experiences. And I think it gave us a little bit of wisdom, maybe. And I think it's a new, fresh voice that I feel, both of us share
Mm-hmm.
when we come together. And I
Yeah.
think it's nice to put it out there. And if it helps even like one person after listening to something we put out there,
Mm-hmm.
then, that would mean so much to me. So it would feel impactful as well. So yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where I thought as soon as you said the word podcast, I was like, oh, we're just talking to each other. Great. What about
Oh,
you?
that was so
What drew
beautifully
you?
said, by the
Oh,
way, that
thanks.
I think it's just a mixture of things, to be honest. And for me personally, I felt there was a lack of a creative outlet because that was a big part of my life growing up, whether it was something big I was creating, small, it's just there was a healthy outlet for all of these emotions stirring up inside me. And it came to quite a boiling point. And I realized when I felt like I was on the edge quite a lot, I would go to YouTube or Spotify and I would consume content, and I realized a lot of the content I wanted to take in was mostly in the form of a podcast where listening to people speak slash and speaking is quite therapeutic. You know, associating words with the emotions you're feeling or the thoughts you have, when you put it out there, it is somehow reassuring, and it could make big problems seem really small or not like problems at all. And yeah, just given the fact that we're living in a pretty crazy world, I just thought it would be a perfect fit. I think we have so much to say. And
Yeah.
like you said, even if it comforts one person in some way, like other podcasts comforted me when I was feeling low or just needed to hang out with someone, even if it's virtual, like we're doing right now. I
Yeah.
think that was also something with the format that I thought would play into it, that you can't always be physically next to each other since we're all in different corners of the world, but it's still important to take time to connect, to talk, to share what you're feeling, and just hang out essentially. So I think that's exactly what we're doing. And I know it's only
Yeah.
been a few minutes into this episode, but I already feel lighter and nicer
Yeah.
to just talk.
Yeah. Honestly, having you on the other side of the camera,
So
it makes
yeah.
me like comfortable. And if anybody needs classes on how to be a good friend, like you should ask this girl because honestly, like the first time I swear that I legit fell in love with you was when you literally came from JP Nagar to all those people living in Bangalore, from JP Nagar to Raja Rajeshwari Nagar to pick me up, to take me back to JP Nagar so that we could hang out. And I was just like, wow, this is true love. And honestly, like that's when I knew that I could like just trust you,
That
as a friend. Okay, wait. I think
um
we should
if you ah,
introduce ourselves a little bit, like talk about ourselves just a little bit so that they
mhm.
know about us. So you go first.
No, you go first.
Okay,
I
fine.
haven't thought about this, so
I mean neither have I. So here's me winging it. Well, we all know my name is Aditi and I grew up in Bangalore. I did engineering where I met Nidhi, and I then realized that engineering was not for me, as do many people, most people, all my friends. Uh, and then I decided to do architecture, and I went to New York to study architecture, did my master's. Somehow found my calling after, slugging it through engineering, then worked over there, and then now I'm kind of back in India for a little bit. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. If personality wise, you know what I feel like I am? Have you seen that meme where there's this North Indian wedding or something, and he's like trying to pour champagne onto like the champagne tower of glasses, and instead of like
yeah,
pouring it
okay.
with one hand, he does this because he's like Hindu. And you know how you have to like hold your
But and then
I
you lift your pinky and I haven't seen this, but I get the vision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
personality. Like, pouring champagne, but like being holy. That's kind of like my personality.
Of course, there's way more to your personality than Sanskari champagne horror. But I guess, I mean, I don't think you even need to say much. It sounds really corny, but I think when someone has a good holistic personality, it kind of radiates through the screen, like yours is right now. You're smiley, you're cheerful, you have real thoughts connected to experiences that you formed, and I don't know, I think that makes you who you are, and you're an extremely thoughtful person. I will like I as far as I can remember. And it's not just for me, it's things you've done for other people as well that made me take a step back and be like, damn, she's just a really good person. And I also like the fact that now you're doing more things for yourself as well. and not just for others. So, you can take care of the soul that's making everyone else around you happy. So
Oh, I appreciate that. We can't be ruining mascara on the first episode.
that's how you know it's deep.
Deep.
About me.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm Nidhi. I also grew up most of my life in Bangalore, but I do remember that the first formative years of my life were in the US because my mom was there for work, and my dad and I shifted there to live with her. So kindergarten, all that really started there. I did most of my schooling in Bangalore, and then obviously met Aditi at the same engineering college, and she somehow managed to slug it through. I didn't. Um, it was a pretty tough time for me. So at some point, I realized that I can't do this anymore. So I quit, and then I worked for a while in India. Um, and then I realized that I had to move out of the country just to grow, to explore things. And yeah, I was in a really courageous phase of my life where I just uprooted everything and I moved to Munich and I studied here. So I studied international business, graduated, and yeah, I've been working ever since now, mostly in corporate settings, so really focusing on the business aspect of things. And funnily enough, now I am in IT. Proud Indian. That's it for my formal introduction. And personality wise, I don't really know. I think I have a little bit of identity crisis going on where I don't know who or what I am, but I think I'm really funny. So that's one thing. Even with my low self-esteem, I think I can say that I'm quite a funny person.
I can agree
That's
with that. You have cracked
that's
me up. And
yeah,
I can
in the best of
definitely
times,
say,
right? When we're
yeah.
sitting the first bench in class.
Oh my God. I know the amount of times I have gotten caught just because of your sense of humor. It's like your humor is kind of dark sometimes, but it always like you're like you come, I don't know, it's you have this really light energy that sort of makes it
Oh,
all like very nice and optimistic to even like feel and like sit next to, you know. So I think I've always been drawn to your energy. Maybe it's like, I don't know, an October born person thing and a November born
yeah,
person thing.
could be.
It could be,
I
but
bet,
I've
I mean,
always,
like you said, according to the astrology research you did, that this was meant to be. So who am I
yeah.
to argue with facts?
Yeah, especially when it comes from ChatGPT.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'd like to think of myself as a torchlight, but when you turn it on, you don't get bright white light. You just get a very dark light. It's still light. It's kind of useless, but it makes you laugh, being like, well, that's not the intended purpose, but oh well. I think we should try describing each other in three words that we think are best associated or how we view each other. So, how would you, or which three words would you choose to describe me?
Okay, so that is a good question because I have a mouthful to describe you, but um
It's so cute.
but I think you covered one, which is funny. You're hilarious. The second one would be you are an extremely trustworthy person. And I mean that because it's like so hard to find someone like that these days. Or I don't know, maybe it's just my luck. And like this isn't one word, but I just think you have a very unique and beautiful way of looking at things. It's it's just it needs to be shared with the world, and I'm glad we're doing this podcast because I think that yeah, you just have like a good eye on how you look at things and how you view even like situations and stuff like that. And I've learned a lot from it. So yeah. Though see, I always have a mouthful, like so much for three words.
Maybe for you. One that I already mentioned is thoughtful. And like I said, it's not just for me, it's for everyone who's around you. I think you've definitely done multiple caring, sincere things for them, whether it's just helping them out through something or for their birthdays or just showing up for somebody. I consider you a really thoughtful person. I think the next word would be courageous because there are so many things you've done in your life, but I'm always like, damn, she's so ballsy. Like she's not just sitting at home overthinking all the things in life into the pits. She takes the step. And I don't know, that's quite inspiring because now I'm like, okay, you know, she's setting a good example for me to also try and just do it. The fact that you moved to the US, the fact that you completely changed your stream from engineering to architecture, and you started from scratch, that you moved around within the US, you handled yourself, just what I view as really courageous. And maybe the last one, I would like there's so many there's so many words in my brain right now. I would say you're very expressive. And I mean that in all facets of life, because I think the way you create your art is very expressive and it brings your perspective to life, and you expand that to so many areas of your life. The way you dress or the way you speak, the references you have, the music you like to listen to. It's yeah, you have a really solid form of self-expression, and that's really beautiful to see. So yeah, those are my
Oh
three
my
words.
God. Yeah, this is exactly what my therapist recommended me. A dose of you.
All right. I have a question for you. So when we came up with the name Brown Noise for our podcast, and I think it was kind of love it or sound at first sight, love at first sound.
Love it first sound.
Right. Uh, why do you think it resonated so much with you? And yeah, I think you also fell in love with the name quite instantly. And maybe you can let everyone know what it means to you or what you hope it's going to mean and what it maybe stands for.
I think, if we ha had degrees for emotional damage, we'd have like PhDs by now. So I think when you said brown noise, I think it just sort of was talking to all of the voices in my head that I have said out loud, haven't said out loud. And noise is such a deep word, it's
Mm-hmm.
something people associate with a negative notion. I don't think that all noise is bad noise. With the name, it just speaks for itself, It's something that you don't have to over explain. We want to talk about things that matter to us because we want it to be heard in a way where it's a chance for us to put our voices out there, but as for it to also break like some stereotypes in society. It has impactful capacities. So I think
Hmm.
the name just resonates
Yeah.
with everything we're trying to achieve over here. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to what all
Hmm.
we discover about each other and where this really, takes us because the intention is so pure from both of our sides. And
Hmm.
we just want to put like good content that people want to hear and enjoy and just can, like walk on the streets listening to one day. It represents where we
Hmm.
come from, our struggles, our upbringing. It just,
Yeah.
it's so deep, dude. Like, such a good name. What about you? What made you resonate with the name?
Of course, everything you just mentioned, such valid points. Another factor is I think it signifies all the nuances of growing up and being brown and the culture we're a part of, that it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think it's important for the world to know, considering there are so many brown people. We make up maybe Somebody tell me if I'm factually wrong, but I would say maybe we make up the majority of the population on this planet, considering the whole subcontinent on our side. We're present everywhere, and yet I guess the rest of the world knows so little about how we're raised, maybe the struggles we go through, or why we act a certain way. And there's obviously roots to everything. So any way we decide to express ourselves, or just to give an example, and maybe I'm speaking for other people as well here, I think brown people are really bad with boundaries and with saying no. There's so many things that I recognize in the way I behave now. And when I think about it, I'm like, damn, yeah, of course, it relates to childhood. It relates to how I was raised. It relates to the society I was a part of. And it's still relevant, like you said. There's also brown noise. I think it's an actual frequency that maybe the more we tune into it, the more apparent it can become. And we can start peeling off the different layers of who we are as people and who we are as a society, and shining a light on all the nuances we have as brown people. And of course, as brown Indian women, we have a lot to say.
I love that. Yeah, every time we have any sort of person like tuning into this kind of frequency, they're usually relating it to like Apu from Simpsons, or like to Rajesh Kutrapali from The Big Bang Theory, like where you're a typical nerd scientist, and like it's like
Yeah.
those kind of voices. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, like, but there's a lot of difference between like how a lot of the world looks at brown people versus how we actually are, and how we spend everyday life, and what kind of conversations we have.
Yeah.
And it's I I just want to break some stereotypes
Hmm.
over here. Just like you said, we're everywhere, and a part of the world is like sort of loving it, but also not liking it at the same time. Because I've heard like a lot of
Yeah.
mixed opinions about it. They think there's like too many of us, and I feel like it's because the representation is not always like genuine. I mean, not condemning like any one of the other Indians who are all across the world. Like, I just think it's so important to just be so honest about where we come from, like how we've grown up, and our culture is so vibrant. We have some beautiful values and principles that we've grown up with. And,
Hmm.
it's important to share that because India has been through a lot in history. Like, everyone's come and literally taken everything away from us, and we still like managed to survive. And I feel like we've been able to stay strong because of like the values and the way our culture is. And I think that's something that's in the foundation
Hmm.
of every brown kid, because we know like the value of this country. Like, you
Hmm.
have to live in India to know the value of India. We have personalities. It needs to be brought out.
Exactly. And I think brown is an umbrella term. And there are so many shades of brown underneath it. Now I'm going to specifically talk about India. I don't think people realize how ginormous of a country India is. And every few hundred kilometers, everything's changing. Correct me if you don't agree, but I don't know if anyone can ever know India. I think you can only ever experience India.
I
And
agree with that.
with our voices, we help them maybe even secondhand experience it a little bit, but maybe shift the light a little bit on how we're currently viewed as a people. Maybe even one of the slightly pettier reasons I feel so strongly about this is because I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked, "Oh, you speak English so well. How is that possible?" Don't get me wrong, there's a right way to ask this question, and there is definitely a wrong way to ask this question. You can come out of a place of genuine curiosity, and then there's a wrong way to be like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to form a perfectly sounding sentence together. How is that possible?" I found myself having to explain to them every single time and justify the fact that I can speak good English.
Yeah.
Most Indians are born at least bilingual. Yeah, hopefully people listening to this will not ask any of us how we're able to speak English ever again. I decide that from now on, I will take offense to that question. It's decided.
Okay, I'm gonna have to back you up there.
I think that was a really good segue into to one of the good points that you just made, where you said, we're going to address stereotypes. You best bet that we will make a full episode on breaking down Indian stereotypes. I think some of the other episodes are related to having an identity crisis, being in your late 20s or early 30s, living abroad. And I know, a very unique experience to live abroad as a brown person.
It's gonna be an interesting topic talking about us and being in our late 20s. I'm excited for that one because I know a lot of people who can relate to that. Everyone I'm calling these days, they're like, oh, like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I don't know who I am. I'm just going through like a cosmic rebirth. It's like it's definitely a very weird place to be in. And I think I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, so I'm definitely intrigued by that. We are also going to talk about how, we found ourselves, our personalities, or are in the journey of finding it. We're going to talk about relationships, finding our style. Yeah, we're going to be talking about basically like a lot of things that we probably have on our group chats, but just, and maybe stuff
Mhm.
that we're too scared to say on our group chats too. We have some interesting topics coming up, and we definitely would eventually
Yeah.
be open to getting ideas from the audience too if they want us to talk about something or like want to know our opinions. And it's going to be a good journey, and I'm excited for everyone who's going to join us for it because some of this, like all of this stuff is coming from the heart. So when we put stuff like that comes directly from the heart,
Yeah.
it's like definitely a scarier premise. So yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward.
Saying that social media is where nuance goes to die. And it's our mission to make sure that we rebirth nuance again. Because if the world is anything, it's
Yeah.
highly nuanced. And maybe we should put a nuance counter here. But it's important that we highlight that it's not always black and white. There are many shades of gray. And like Ali said, we're going to try to be as unfiltered, raw, authentic. It's
Yeah.
refreshing to hear people truly speak from the heart and also their real life lived experiences. And I guess with that, we've come to the end of our first introduction episode. I hope all of you or whoever's listening slash watching enjoyed this. Please be kind to us. This is our first attempt at doing this. This is also our first episode we're recording. We will definitely try to get better. We feel so deeply about this that we are going to put in the effort to make sure it reaches its best and final form, like a fully evolved Pokemon, but you got to start as Pikachu somewhere. So please subscribe, comment, like, do all the nice little stuff that you can do with the buttons down there.
So like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, turn off the brown noise.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye.